What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Eli the House Guy checking in. Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we're going to talk about our sales process and negotiations tactics in order for us to get deals. And what you're going to get out of this video is a framework, so that way you can apply this when you're out there looking for deals, talking to sellers, and you have a pathway to know how to do it. So without further ado, let's just turn around and jump right in. When you find a seller and they want to sell their property, if you don't know what you're saying, you're going to have a very random, sporadic, and misguided conversation. So the purpose of our introduction here, where you set expectations, is you want to come across the seller or the person that's selling their property as the expert, right? If you just say to a person, oh, you want to sell your house? You say yeah, and you say, okay, how much? And they say a price, and you don't have a formal conversation, you might end up overpaying for that property. You might offer too low and make the seller actually angry, or in either case, you're still not getting a deal, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want the seller to be engaged with you, either on the phone or in person, by way of what I like to do when I'm on the phone is get them to write stuff down. So in the introduction, I'd say something like, if a seller calls me and I'd say, hey, this is Best Home Offer, how may I help you? They would say, I've got a property at 123 Main Street that I want to sell. Awesome, very good. My process on this call, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, is to determine if your house is going to qualify for what I'm looking for. Because the reality is we don't buy every single house that comes across our desk, right? So we're going to ask a couple of questions about the property's condition and what you got going on, so we can best identify if we're a good fit for one another. If we are a good fit for one another, at the end of our call, we will have an offer for you. And if it doesn't match what we're looking for, we'll tell you why and give you the next best step in order to help you solve your problem. So now what I've done there is I set the expectation of how this conversation is going to go. I am the expert, but then most importantly, I'm letting them know that, hey, if we don't have this conversation in this particular way, I'm not going to be the right fit for you, because I got to maintain a level of control in that conversation so the seller knows where they're going to end up. Most importantly, I also want to add at the end of that call, notice how I said that at the end of our call, if the property is qualifying, they will have an offer. They are actually asking me for an offer. So in order for them to get that offer, the house has to qualify, which nobody's saying that these days, right? Everyone's saying, hey, I want to buy your house for cash. I want to buy it as is. I'll buy it on your timeline, things like that, right? But nobody's going to tell a seller, hey, your house might not actually even qualify. So we're looking for the deals that actually qualify for what we're looking for. And then I'm getting them on the hook and keeping them there by saying, hey, if you get through this conversation with me, you're going to have what you're looking for, which is that offer. So introduction, set expectations, that's the purpose for it. Moving on. Now we're talking about the 4 pillars. So in the 4 pillars, we've got our price, we've got our motivation, we've got the condition, and we've got the timeline. These are the main 4 pillars of motivation for any seller, right? If I use this eraser right here as an example, right? If a seller calls me and says, hey, I've got an Expo eraser I want to sell, and I ask them how much they're looking to get for it, and they throw out an outrageous number like $100. Are you buying this for $100? Probably not. Are you going to take that seller serious saying that they want to sell this for $100? Probably not. The purpose of asking price up front is for the simple fact that we want to make sure that the seller is being somewhat reasonable for their situation and why they're selling their property. So now that we're at motivation, you guys can see an acronym that says SPIN. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to share something with you. Once upon a time, when I was getting started in this real estate game, an old boss had me read this book right here. It's a book by Neil Rackham. It's called S.P.I.N Selling. Now, the purpose of S.P.I.N selling is to help people identify how to navigate a conversation whereby there's multiple parties in the specific thing that's being sold, purchased, or the service being provided. Now, why is this important? Imagine walking down the street and you've got a guy on the sidewalk selling little knickknacks like bracelet beads, right? He charges $5. He says, hey, this $5 is gonna go support whatever cause to save the whales in the ocean. And you don't care about $5. It doesn't affect you, your mother, your sister, your brother, or anyone else. So you're more than likely inclined, if you care about whales, to make the exchange for the $5 in exchange for the little beads. Well, that's a small or low ticket sales item. When we're dealing with houses, when we're dealing with cars, boats, planes, or big ticket items that cost thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, there's a lot of different people involved, such as your financial advisor, if you have one, such as your spouse, if you have one, such as those people who are dependent on you because you're spending a large amount of cash or a large amount of money in exchange for an item, a product, or a service. And so the S.P.I.N selling model actually takes you through the process of building the value in order for the person that you're doing business with to exchange their hard-earned dollars for what you're selling. So let's talk about that. 9 times out of 10, when you talk to a seller and the seller says, I want to sell my house, they're going to tell you, if you ask them, I want to sell my house because I need the cash. It's usually a one-liner. That's the situation, but that doesn't tell us anything. Everybody needs cash. I need cash. You need cash. We all need cash, right? But for what? What purpose? So I'm going to find out what is the situation whereby they need the cash right now. Why do they need it, right? So now we're going to start uncovering a problem in that seller's need, right? So I need cash because I have to move out of state. Well, that sounds like a great thing that's happening. What's the problem with that? Now they're gonna have to explain themselves and develop the actual problem. So now you're gonna be able to extract information to build value in your offer. Keep in mind, guys, we're buying properties around 50 to 60 cents on the dollar when we're wholesaling, or even looking for great real estate deals, right? If that's the case, we need to build as much value as possible in order to get the seller a solution to their problem, so that way you can get a great deal in exchange. So once we uncover the problem, such as I gotta move out of state because my family member is in the hospital and I need the cash for my house in order to move down there, take care of my family member, and also cover their hospital bills because they cannot do it, right? Well, in that situation, there's gonna be some kind of impact. This situation might have been going on for a long time. It could have just happened. It could affect a person at work because they're feeling depressed and stressed and all these emotions are happening. So what's likely to happen is they're not gonna be operating at their highest peak potential, right? So there's an impact that this situation is causing in order for them to say, hey, you know what? This resolution would be sell my house, get the cash, go where I gotta go, right? So in impact, I wanna find out how big of a problem this situation actually is, right? So if they're not performing at work for long enough, chances are they'll get fired. If they have any dependents in the home, chances are if they get fired, the kids aren't gonna eat, right? And if the kids ain't gonna eat, then we're gonna have CPS at the door trying to take the kids away. And if CPS is at the door, that's gonna cause even more stress because they got more people to answer to, right? And if they got more people to answer to, then all of a sudden their world went from sunny to super cloudy in a matter of months, right? And you guys can start to see, I hope you're understanding how big the scenario can actually get. And in this process in motivation, right, you wanna take your time with the seller to really uncover why they need the cash as much as possible, okay? If you guys ever stay tuned to this channel, there will be some live seller calls where you guys will be able to see this happen live on the phone, but I just wanna explain to you the theory behind my sales process, okay? Now, we've got the situation, we've got the problem, we know the impact of that problem. Now it's time to give them the solution in exchange for what we're looking for. So, if we can, and this is one of my favorite statements when I'm doing a consultation, is the if-then statement. So if I, or if we could take your house from you or buy the house from you and get you the cash that you need, So the problem that you have is no longer impacting you. What would that make you feel like? Now, the payoff section of the spin cycle is an emotional feeling. We want to cater to the emotions of the person that we're selling to or we're buying from, simply because we want them to realize that our solution is the solution that they're looking for if it's the right fit. So once we have the needs payoff, if we can do this, then will you do that? Meaning, sell us your house. How would that make you feel? Oh, that would feel amazing, and this would be great for me, and I can uproot the family and have enough cushion that I need to get to where I gotta go. Awesome, perfect. So now I'm gonna transition to the condition of the actual property. Now, back to the example of the eraser here. Let's say we have a guy on the street and he wants to sell this Expo eraser and he's charging, he's looking for 50 cents for this guy. Okay, that sounds like a reasonable price. What kind of condition is this in? Is it brand new? Is it wet? Is it dry? Is it chewed on by a dog? Has it been pissed on? Has it been crapped on? What is the condition of this actual product, meaning the house? Does the house need renovations? Has the house been flooded? Does it have mold? Has there been a fire? Has a tree fallen on the roof? Has somebody crashed into it with their car? Has the tenants destroyed it? Is there a lot of termites? Is there a lot of roaches? Is there a lot of rodents? Is it in a gang war area? Is it what is the condition of the property? Once we know the condition of the property, and by the way, guys, you shouldn't be having this conversation about condition until you know what the situation is, because now you can actually start to put your underwriter hat on and start to figure out what your offer is going to be, because you have to keep that in mind with your formula. Recall, we've got the ARV minus our percentage, subtract the renovation cost or the rehab. Okay, this renovation cost is a variable that we need to consider when being able to make an offer. So you don't want to get into condition before it's time. You want to make sure that you're talking to the right person with the right price and the proper motivation to actually be ready to pull the trigger and sell their property. Now, once we got the condition of the property, we need to know, when are these people actually looking to move? Is that today? Is that tomorrow? Is that next month? Is that next year? When is it? If we don't know, we can't properly help them. So that's the 4 general pillars of motivation. Now, I also have a bonus section here, because after you figure all this stuff out, right, you want to know how to close out this conversation, and that's this part 2 bonus section right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the flip side.